I'm standing next to something that is incredibly special. It is a piece of Florida extreme metal history. When you think of one of the most extreme and heavy sludge bands to ever come out of Florida, who do you think of? Whoever you thought was incorrect, unless it was Dove. This is a Crate 1600XL, one of the amps that were signature to the guitar player Henry Wilson from the band Dove that was formed in Winter Haven, Florida in the early 2000s. Dove was an extremely heavy and very unique sludge metal band in the sense that they were obsessed with reggae. They definitely put a lot of just different beats into their music, and it was almost beautiful guitar playing. I remember hearing Dove for the first time, and it just immediately encapsulated me, not only because of the tone, because the tone's perfect, okay? The tone is perfect on their first and only record, the self-titled Dove record from 2004. The riffs and the way that they're played, the cadence, the vocals, the lyrics are just, you know, you usually think of sludge as like anger and aggression, and there was definitely anger and aggression in the display of the music and in the conveyance of the music, but not in really the vocals. And it was also kind of that the lyrics were not really even confrontational, maybe even with philosophical confrontation. It was more of just like a contemplation, a more of a loud statement, and sometimes a celebration of life instead of one that is the opposite. Punk critiques and things like that, but definitely still something very special. So I was tasked to put this back together for the man himself, Henry, by my buddy James from Bunaand, another great local band, extremely heavy and extremely loud. He's good friends with Henry, and he wanted to do something special for him, and James has had this amp in particular sitting around in his garage for years, he said, at this point, and he didn't really know what to do with it because Henry had taken it apart completely. As you can see, I do have the front panel here. It's missing the logo. It still has the piping on it, but we're just basically going to kind of toss the head shell. I'm just tasked to clean and refurbish completely the chassis itself. I was tasked to do that because I had already completely fixed two Crate G1600XLs for James that had been sitting in his garage for, he said, 2 years up to this point, and I received the parts and fixed them within 2 weeks. We did an entire cap job on them, replaced some integral resistors, and for this one, I'm going to be doing the same thing, cleaning it up completely, replacing some caps, some resistors, and then we're also going to install a cable that you can remove, a power cable that you can remove. I mean, it came to me in literal parts. This is a better bag than it came to me in, but it has all the knobs, all the screws, and everything in it so far, all the washers, the nuts. It looks like everything we need, but we're going to go ahead and get into the inside and take a look at what we're going to be doing. All right, y'all, this is exactly how I received the Crate 1600XL from Henry and James. I guess this is how Henry left it, just kind of in parts. Not exactly sure what he was trying to do, but we have that nice Accutronics reverb tank here. Rusty transformer, totally fine. Like I said, this is a better bag than what I received the parts in, but as you can see, I got the knobs, I got screws. This is a input jack shield for the input jacks, bolts, and nuts and everything. So it looks like we have everything in the bag. I didn't really check. I didn't really do an inventory. I just put it in the bag. But so far so good. So that's that. These are the reverb cables here, input and output. As you can see, the power cable is just trashed. So we're going to, let's get this up here. So we're going to make some room. I'm going to make some room and install an IEC socket. We're going to cut this here and install it so that way Henry has a removable power cable. A nice thick heavy duty one. He removed the heat sink cover. We're going to put some more thermal glue on that and get that sealed back up. As you can see here, let's go ahead and focus on that. So the G1600XLs were stupid loud, absolutely stupid loud, and this is the reason why. They could go 160 watts at 4 ohms, and the total minimum load is 2 ohms, meaning that this amp is probably 200 watts with a 2 ohm output. I mean, already it's extremely loud, but I mean, with an extra, let's say 40 watts, it'll just completely destroy anything else on stage. So here we go. These amps have weird reversed power switches, at least the ones that James did. So I flipped the power switches, meaning that this is technically on right now. The way that it looks, it's switched downward, but the amp would be on. So I'm going to flip the power switch to where this is off and this is on. Looks like this is a classic ECW sticker that Henry put on there. Respect to ECW and Henry. And then we're missing some of the plastic ring covers here. These are the pots and everything. He basically made it so he can remove the chassis. I don't know why he was trying to, or remove the board. I don't know why he was trying to remove the board. I'm not really sure if he knows how to solder or anything like that. I mean, kudos to him if he does. Definitely big respect to him if he does. But, or if he was trying to like mod the amp or something with really some kind of hidden knowledge or something. I mean, I would love to know, but either way, let's go ahead and fully flip it over. So that's what these look like on the inside. All right, and then this is the input preamp board. So input jacks. It looks like there's some kind of corrosion here. Definitely gonna have to clean this up. It could have been this cap or these two caps leaking or something. And I believe I got a couple of resistors to replace these just to make sure that they're working properly. I'm gonna check underneath the board, make sure there's no corrosion or anything underneath the board, no burns. But we're gonna replace, these caps, and we're gonna replace these caps, and then we're gonna replace these other caps anyway. So it's not really gonna make a big deal or make that much of a difference, with it being corroded like that. But we're gonna replace some jacks, and then clean up some pots, replace the caps here. As you can see, there's quite a few, but they're pretty much small. They're usually these 2.2s at 50 volts here. And then some other large capacitors. This is the power section. It's a pretty simple board. Got some resistors here that are looking cracked. If you ever have cement resistors that are looking cracked, just replace them. That means they've expanded due to heat, and they've just completely, ran their life down to the ground. So they need to be replaced. We have some nice ohmite resistors that we're gonna use to replace those. But we're gonna replace, all these little caps here. Resistors, clean up everything. These are the transistors, these are power transistors, as you can see. Some MOSFET chips there. And then, we're gonna place all these resistors. I have some nice ohmite 5-watt resistors that we're gonna place that with. These are the two big power caps. They don't even have a brand on them. That's the thing with like SLM and Ampeg. I'm not really sure why they chose to. I mean, I know Crate is supposed to be lower end, and of course, you get lower end products in a lower end product, but regardless, they really kind of dropped the ball when it came to the power capacitors. But what do I really know? I mean, the amp still works, so I mean, we'll find out. either way, we're going to place those with some nice Nishikon, or they could be Rubicons. Not exactly sure, but we'll find out. And then the fuse, what I'm probably going to do with this IEC socket, I'll probably just cut this cable here and strip it to the point where I have these 3 wires, and just wire up the socket, cut it out with my multi-tool, and just leave the existing wiring in there, making sure it's all cleaned up. There's really no point in disrupting all these connections here if this wire is working totally fine. So just going to modify that connection for sure. Make sure these input jacks are cleaned up and ready to go. But as you can see, it's a pretty simple amp. I mean, all you do is flip the switch using like a screwdriver, kind of. It's like a little tab that you push out or push down, and then you can push the switch out, and then you can flip the actual switch itself. So yeah, that's pretty much all we're gonna do to the amp, and then make sure it's just cleaned up. James is gonna build him the smallest head shell possible. We're gonna make sure the reverb tank works when it's hooked up, and just get it back to Henry so he can start ripping through it. All right, this is the power board removed. The power board is like the heart and the lungs of the amp itself. So as we see on this top side, the parts are just kind of worn out. I think I see what happened, or I know what happened. Either the resistors gave out and started overloading everything, or these capacitors gave out. Check out what's underneath. So yeah, we got a lot of flux. Flux indicates a part overloading, or basically like heating up. Yeah, let's see if we can get closer to there. There we go. So yeah, that's just like flux leaking out and basically causing corrosion. Doesn't look like there's any loose soldered points, but definitely looks like it needs to be cleaned. Look at these caps here. These are the caps. They just look completely fried. That's a lot, by the way. Yeah, and then these connections to this is the connections to the transformer. So maybe the connection to the transformer kind of shorted because of the caps being overloaded, or something like that. Can't really see underneath this silicone they have. Either way, we're gonna take care of all this. This is gonna be a thing of the past. This is gonna get some brand new parts on it that will last longer than anything else. But yeah, these resistors are gonna get completely replaced. This blue cap here, these 2 blue caps, this cap, these yellow 104Ks, 100 volts, they're getting replaced as well. This cap, these resistors, this cap here, this one, this one, this one. I believe I have some diodes as well. It's best just to replace everything that is integral to the power circuit. Something like a resistor or anything, unless it's completely burnt out and you can tell, it's normally fine. Same thing with these transistors, bridge wire, things like that. So we're just gonna leave it. This is an inductor. That seems totally fine. I always replace the fuse just so it has a new fuse. And then these power caps, these 2 5-watt 0.2s. And then these caps here, these are 2700 picofarad. And then of course the large caps there. But either way, it usually doesn't take too long, maybe about 2 hours or so to get all this replaced. So let's get that going now. now that everything has been replaced, this is the preamp board here. We have the two new diodes, 53Bs right there. Whole new cluster of caps right here. Got all new Rubicon caps here. All that is new. That cap is new with the .047. These 3-string here of resistors are new. They had some electrolytic underneath and they just looked kind of corroded and burnt. So I cleaned this whole area. It looked like one of these caps. If we could take a look at this one. This is a 47 microfarad at 35 volts. Old, crusty, exploded, leaking everywhere. So we cleaned all of that and then replaced those caps. That was these two here. These are 47 microfarad at 35 volts and they're Rubicons. Or no, I'm sorry, they are Chemicons. So all of these caps here on this board will last more than 5,000, even 7,000, sometimes up to 12,000 hours. And then we have all of these caps replaced and the resistors replaced on the power section here. So then now we're going to get into the IEC cable install. This should be very interesting because this is my first time doing any kind of power cable swap with an IEC socket. So let's get into that and we'll see the process. All right, so my process on installing this IEC socket is going to be leaving the existing connections as is. I'm going to remove the cable cuff. I'm going to cut the wire. Once I cut the wire, I'm going to cut it into place to where I have enough length to solder the existing connections to this IEC socket. When I do that, I'm going to go ahead and measure exactly what I need, the amount of space that I need, mark it, and then cut it out with my multi-tool here. And then from there, put this back in, and we should be all good. I'm going to strip this wire as well. I'm going to cut it to the bare wire. And then we should be able to get this connected pretty simply and pretty quickly. So this is going to be an experiment. This is my first time installing an IEC cable. Proud to do it on this crate for Henry. Let's see what's in store for us. And I'm also going to be switching the power switch to make sure that that is properly oriented, meaning that the downside is going to be off and the upside is going to be on, whereas right now it is completely reversed. Let's get into that now. All right, I would like to note that the cutting of the actual IEC socket is not shown on frame. It was a little tougher than it posed to be initially. I had to use my Dremel tool in conjunction with a drill to get the hole cut to the proper specifications. But afterward, the result was perfect. I used a little silicone RTV to keep it in place. All right, we're gonna do a final overview of the inside of the Crate G1600XL for Henry. So this is the final board inspection. This is the final look at the board before the installation. Everything, like these power caps, these 5-watt resistors here, these 0.2s, these caps were replaced. These red ones here, these two yellow small capacitors down there were replaced. The fuse was replaced. all the cables were put back exactly where they should be on the board. Try to keep in mind, this amp came back to me in pieces completely. This board, you know, was still intact, but it had the heat sink removed from it. This tall fin here that screws on is called the heat sink, and it dissipates heat from the amplifier. That's why it has the warning for the heat. But it has like a thermal glue underneath. Of course, that was disrupted and broken. And this was just completely removed. So obviously repaired, put thermal glue on it, and got it back restored onto the amplifier. These long 10-watt resistors were replaced. These radial caps here, these red ones, these resistors were replaced as well. This cap here, this resistor was burnt out. This is a 1.5K, so I went ahead and replaced that. This one, it still resisted, but it could have been passing electricity. It could have been passing current. It was a little burnt looking, so replace that. That cap's been replaced. This cap's been replaced. This cap has been replaced. This has been replaced. Everything has RTV on it, the silicone RTV, just to create a better grasp to the board, and then it also makes it so these caps don't move at all. It makes it into kind of like a silicone gasket. This has been replaced. These resistors have been replaced. Some nice ohmite there. This guard has now since been installed. That was removed completely and just put in the bag. Here you can see the rest of the components that were replaced down there. Here we go. These caps here, replace. Everything that has that clear RTV on it has been replaced completely. So we do have a good number of caps on the preamp board that was replaced as well. And then finally the diodes towards the end, those 53Bs, those were replaced as well. Let's get this back in the head shell and let's hear how it sounds. I also want to add that this is the only Crate G1600XL that you will see with a removable power cable. I had to buy a Dremel, and this was my first time cutting a square hole into, or a rectangular hole into a chassis. This is kind of 1/8 inch thick, maybe aluminum, steel possibly. It's pretty tough. Even with the Dremel, was giving me kind of a hard time, but I was able to get kind of a larger space than I needed, but I just covered that up with some RTV and then screwed it in. It's bolted in completely. That's not going anywhere. We have a nice heavy duty power cable that's going to go in it, and it's going to work beautifully. So let's get this going. All right, up next is a clip with the man himself, Henry, ripping through some Dove riffs through the completed G1600XL. It was such a great time catching up with James and Henry and hearing him play through one of his old setups. He's playing a Gibson Les Paul Studio that he's used with Dove before. And we were checking out his old Les Paul Customs and just talking old Florida history. Check out this clip. This is super cool. Thanks for watching, and we'll have more content coming up soon. 1 second. Fuck yeah.
What note is that?
If it's just low, it's like A or something. What do you want to tune to?
We'll do C. Yeah, I'll do C.
Oh yeah. I'll be rocking that note, bro. With the drums in the back.
Ooh.
feels like that Ebony Fretboard. You know what's weird? So that's right off the bat.